Good Wednesday morning, everyone. Welcome back to Weather on the Go, all your weather coverage. In today's video, I will be tracking two significant storm systems over the next 7 to 10 days across the center of the country, and I'll also be tracking our first polar vortex disruption event that will possibly be occurring as early December in this video. If you guys are new to the channel and have yet to subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit the subscribe button down below and the notification bell to get all of my daily weather forecast updates. I cover Canada, the United States, and the tropics here in this channel. So definitely hit the subscribe button down below and the notification bell to get all of my daily weather forecast updates. Currently looking here across the United States at the visible satellite imagery, we do have our next storm system taking shape across the western United States, across the Intermountain West here into Montana, Wyoming, back into portions of Idaho, getting into Nevada. And this is our next storm system digging southward here into portions of the Four Corners, and will be arriving across the southern plains as we get into Thanksgiving Day itself. And you can see that here we definitely have a ridge starting to build across the Pacific Northwest, but underneath that we're going to start to see a low pressure system develop across the Four Corners and into Texas as we head into Thanksgiving Day itself, and we have that ridge over top, which does mean this low pressure system is going to be slow to move as we go over the next couple of days. So let's track this here as we go into Friday, again the day after Thanksgiving. Again, we have that ridge over top here across the northern plains, the upper Midwest, which does mean that this low pressure system, when it does develop across portions of West Texas, this will slowly track to the east as we get through the upcoming weekend, and that will mean more precipitation across the southern plains and the deep south as we go over the next 48 to 72 hours. You can see a positively tilted trough across the deep south here. We have a trough here digging all the way southward here into portions of northern Mexico, perhaps, on this model run here on the European forecast model, and a very large ridge across the west. So that does mean a deep system is likely, with lots of moisture here. But ahead of the system, we do have some warmer temperatures. These are your Thanksgiving daytime highs here on Thursday, Thanksgiving Day itself, November 24th. You can see widespread 50s all the way to the north here into portions of the Ohio Valley, getting back into the Missouri Valley, Illinois, even some 60s across portions of the southeast. The immediate Gulf Coast could even see some lower 70s from places like Mobile, Alabama, New Orleans, getting back here into the Corpus Christi and Houston area, some 80s down into portions of South Florida as we go into Thanksgiving Day itself. Looking to the south, though, that's where the storm system will track, and we are looking at dew points rising back into the 50s, lower 60s across portions of Texas, especially coastal Texas around the Houston area. We could be seeing those muggy dew points returning with 60s, even some near 70-degree dew points there, providing plenty of fuel for severe weather. We actually do have a marginal risk for severe storms. The Storm Prediction Center has hoisted that for Thursday here, and that is something to continue to watch across the Houston area, Corpus Christi, and then getting up into portions of southwestern Louisiana here. That is a level 1 of 5 on the scale of 5, so that will be something to watch. Looking here at the tornado risk, again, we have a 2% chance of tornado, so I do think there's a potential for a brief spin-up tornado here somewhere across southeast Texas, around the Houston area, Corpus Christi, and then getting up there toward portions of southwestern Louisiana on your Thursday. We are also looking at a low-end wind risk with gusts that could be up to around 60 miles per hour, where that is a 5% shading there across southeast Texas and southwestern Louisiana, and then less than 5% in all areas for large hail. There could be some small hail across these areas with some pea to dime size hail, but I'm not expecting anything here too significant because the instability levels are going to be so low across this area. So let's track this, shall we? Let's move ahead here to your Thursday morning time frame. This is around mid-morning, and you can see some scattered showers and a few embedded thunderstorms starting to rumble in across northeast Texas, back across the San Antonio area, getting up toward the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, Texarkana. Some of these storms could be a little feisty with some heavier downpours, some small hail, maybe some isolated damaging winds. But as we move into late afternoon, this is around your 4 o'clock time frame on your Thanksgiving Day, we could see some heavier thunderstorms starting to track into the Houston metro, getting down into Corpus Christi, Tyler, Texas, and then getting down here into southwestern Louisiana. And these are the storms that we will have to watch for some isolated and marginal risks for severe weather here as we move into that Thursday afternoon and early Thursday evening time frame. And then this will continue to track across Louisiana, some very heavy rainfall across places like like Lafayette, getting down to Baton Rouge, and then perhaps as far southwest here as the Houston area again as we move into the overnight hours on your Thursday. Looking at the rainfall amounts across this area, yeah, some pretty significant rainfall is likely across portions of East Texas, southern Arkansas, much of Louisiana, and getting into Mississippi here across the deep south. Rainfall amounts ranging from 1 to 3 inches. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw even some areas, especially into central Louisiana here, approach 4 inches of rain. That is something we'll continue to monitor as we get a little bit closer here with this system. But zooming it out for you guys, you definitely see a large swath of some very heavy rainfall across the deep south here into East Texas, Arkansas, much of Louisiana here taking the bullseye from this system here, with the heaviest rainfall getting into Mississippi, Alabama, and eventually North Georgia, and getting into Tennessee as the system starts to track its way eastward over the next 72 hours. This also means we do have to watch the risk for some flash flooding. The Weather Prediction Center has hoisted a day 3 outlook here for a slight risk for flash flooding. This includes the Jackson, Mississippi area, getting back into Lafayette, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, southern Arkansas, and into East Texas. This also does include the Houston area as we get in towards that Thursday time frame here as we go into Thanksgiving here tomorrow. Looking here as we get beyond Thanksgiving into the Friday time frame, November 25th, we see these temperatures warming back into portions here of the 60s across the deep south. But then we look to the west. We definitely have some colder air starting to wrap itself around here the backside of the system. Temperatures dropping back into the low and mid 30s into the Texas Panhandle, eastern New Mexico, and that means we could be seeing some snowfall break out across these areas as we get into Thursday afternoon on the system's backside. So we could be seeing severe weather on the leading edge of the system, and the backside some backwash moisture with some snowfall and some colder air being filtered in here from the north, and some flurries breaking out across central portions of New Mexico, the Rockies here back into Colorado as we get into Thursday afternoon. Starting to see a more steady shield of snowfall here with some snow showers moving into southeastern and eastern portions of New Mexico, the Texas Panhandle as we head into the overnight hours on your Thursday into Friday morning. And that really continues for the better half of your day on Friday across the Lubbock area, getting up toward the Amarillo area as well, southeastern New Mexico. So that will be something to watch. Heavy wet snow is possible, and I do expect possibly some winter weather advisories, if not winter storm watches, to be hoisted here within the next 12 hours. So that will be something to keep an eye on. And this does look like the potential for a shovelable snow across portions of the Texas Panhandle and eastern and southeastern New Mexico. We could be seeing a couple to even several inches of snow that definitely could be falling here, anywhere from 2 to 5 inches, with localized amounts higher than that, closer to 8 inches potentially, if we see some heavier banding of some snowfall set up across these areas going in towards the weekend. So that will be something to keep an eye on. But as we get into Saturday here, this upcoming weekend, Saturday, November 26th, this system, like I said, will be slow to move out. That means some heavier snowfall on the system's backside will have more time to accumulate. We have more severe weather on the leading edge of that system. But as we go into Sunday, that system will finally lift its way up the east coast toward the northeast, and we'll say goodbye to the first system as we head in towards late this weekend on your Sunday, November 27th. Again, as we move into that Sunday time frame, we're going to here kind of reload the atmosphere. We have a zonal flow, which means warmer air to the south, cooler air up to the north, and we have a Pacific jet stream here with winds from west to east across much of the contiguous United States, and that does mean a lull in the action as we head into that Sunday time frame. But as we get into Sunday, again, we will see some rainfall across the East Coast. No severe weather I'm expecting at this time during this period of time on Sunday. Just mainly some scattered rain showers, some thunderstorms, especially down in here into the Carolinas, southeastern Georgia there, and getting into North Florida. That will track its way quickly up the East Coast here and move into portions of eastern Canada as we head into Monday, November 28th. Looking at the rainfall amounts again across the East Coast, yes, we're going to be seeing some pretty significant rainfall there as well, especially into the Carolinas, getting up into southern Virginia. Could see a couple of inches there, and then getting up into the interior New England there, into portions of Maine, getting into Vermont, New Hampshire, and around the Boston area, we could be seeing a half an inch to up to an inch of rain locally across those areas here as we get through the weekend. Then we're looking back to the west. We got a second storm system making headway into the Pacific Northwest as we get get into the following week, next Monday, on Monday, November 28th, again, starting to see this ridge spiking its way up into the Aleutian Islands, into Alaska and the northern Pacific, which does mean what goes up must come down, and we have another trough digging in as we get into Monday. That will dig all the way southward into portions of Southern California, the Four Corners region, into Utah, Colorado, Arizona, and New Mexico as we go into Tuesday, November 29th. And a very powerful jet stream, too. We have a mid-level jet, 500 millibars, pretty strong around the base of this trough, which does mean this could be a player for severe weather as we go into the middle of next week, especially considering we're getting some warmer air on the leading edge of the system. We have a very dynamic jet stream as we get into that Wednesday morning time frame, Wednesday afternoon time frame across the middle Mississippi Valley, getting into the southern plains and the Mississippi Delta region as we get in towards that Wednesday time frame, and a fairly significant 850 millibar low-level jet as well across the Ohio Valley, the Tennessee Valley, and getting down into the deep south. So this will be something to watch, and it is a little concerning for severe weather, especially when we get a very strong cold front. Definitely can see a very large temperature drop on the system's backside. But looking ahead here, we have 60s, 70s, even maybe some low 80s potentially trying to show up across the New Orleans region, getting into the 70s into portions there of the Jackson, Mississippi area, and potentially into the mid 60s as far north as the Memphis area as we head into Wednesday afternoon. Also here, in addition, we do have dew points rising well into the 60s, low 70s across this area, which means we're going to see a return of that moisture from the Gulf of Mexico from south to north across this region. Dew points really all the way up into Michigan, Indiana, Western Ohio, Illinois, going to be into the 50s. So kind of a muggier feel for you guys, kind of a little more humid out there as we get into that Wednesday time frame to close out the month of November. I did put this map together for you guys to get you a general perspective of where I do expect severe weather potential going into that Wednesday time frame. This is for Wednesday, November 30th, and you can see severe weather could be breaking out across portions of the western Ohio Valley, across portions of southern Indiana, getting into west central Kentucky, much of Tennessee, much of Alabama, Mississippi, and Louisiana. This is the area we'll have to watch for severe weather. And right now, the early look at this is the mode of severe weather would be damaging winds with kind of a line of thunderstorms, a squall line of storms moving through portions of the Ohio Valley, getting down through the Tennessee Valley and the Gulf Coast states as we get into Wednesday afternoon. Possibly some spin-up tornadoes could be a concern as we get closer to this event, especially with that low-level jet being very strong as it is, especially looking at the models here earlier on. Pretty strong low-level jet. The hail risk will be there as well, but I think a lot lower because the instability will be a little lower during this period. But as we go in towards that Thursday, December 1st time frame, turning the page to December, we're going to see a quiet weather pattern return with the high pressure returning on the system's backside. And that will see some much quieter weather as we turn the page to December. Speaking of December here, going into the first few days of December, going all the way through Tuesday, December 6th, it does look like the pattern does favor warmer temperatures across the eastern and southeastern United States, and much cooler temperatures across the western and northwestern United States, especially centered on Montana, the Dakotas, back into portions of northern Idaho, getting into Washington State, and probably even southwestern Canada as well. So that will be something to keep an eye on. And with those troughs and those storm systems continuing with that polar jet activating as we get into early December, that will mean above normal precipitation across the northwestern United States and tracking its way eastward toward the Great Lakes and Ohio valleys as we get into that first full week in December. Speaking of December, we definitely have to watch out for a polar vortex here. And again, we're going to see the potential for a polar vortex disruption, our first polar vortex disruption of the year. We already had a polar vortex stretching event here across the Great Lakes and Northeast already this year. It does look like the signs are pointing towards a polar vortex disruption as we get in towards that first week in December. So looking here at this overall map, you see the cold air and the low pressure near the pole. That will drag its way southward with all that colder air because we have a very strong ridge across the Pacific Northwest and the northeastern Pacific Ocean. So again, what goes up must come down and will bring all that colder air south. So looking at this is the GFS American model. Does paint a good picture of that polar vortex to the north near the poles, but we'll be bringing all of this colder air down into at least the northern plains and the Pacific Northwest going into that December 3rd time frame potentially, and then kind of hanging around across the northern United States, getting into the Northeast by the time we get in towards that Monday, December 5th time frame potentially, and then even deeper into the first week of December. Going into the second week in December, it does look like that polar vortex disruption could be in full force across the eastern United States with these purples and pinks showing up. That is much below average temperatures and some extremely cold temperatures possible across the Northeast, the Great Lakes, and the Ohio Valley as we get into the second week in December. And especially since we're looking at the snowpack here to the north, we have lots of snow cover across Alaska, getting across much of the western Canadian provinces here and really across much of Canada itself and getting into the northern United States. All this cold air across this area as it tracks from north to south into that second week in December will have lots of snow cover to move over. So we're going to see a lot of colder air moving into the United States as we get in towards that December timeframe. So do be on the heads up for that. Thank you guys so much for watching. Definitely hit the subscribe button down below. Like I said, hit the notification bell to get all of my daily weather forecast updates. Like the video down below by giving it a thumbs up. Leave any comments, questions, and concerns below, and I'll get to those later on today. Thank you guys so much for watching, and have a great Wednesday, everyone.